Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. It is Thursday, so we are talking Turner syndrome. Today is actually a really exciting video for me because I'm sharing a story that is very similar to mine. So if you haven't seen my story, if you don't know the details of my history with Turner syndrome, I will link a video called My Testimony. This is very early on in me creating videos on YouTube, so excuse the amateurishness of it, but it tells my story in much more detail than I was planning to in here. If you guys want me to kind of do a more updated, better video on my story, I would love to do that. So let me know if you would like to see that video, kind of more in-depthly and more currently telling my story. So today we are talking about the story of Monica Farrell and her baby. I found out about this story through another Turner syndrome outreach page that I'm involved with. The one that I talked about being on the Facebook Live with. It is the KCTS Diaries on Facebook, and I will link to that Facebook page. But the girls on there did a whole live video talking about this story, and it really shocked me how so similar to mine it was. The gist of the story is Monica Farrell had been fighting infertility and didn't expect that she could get pregnant, was kind of just writing it off as it just wasn't going to happen, and her and her husband hadn't even been thinking about it again. Then later they found out they were 6 weeks pregnant. At the 11-week ultrasound, they started to do the ultrasound. The x-ray tech started acting weird and left the room, got very quiet and left the room, and brought a doctor back. The doctor looked at the screen. The doctor then said, "You have a 6 mm cystic hygroma," which is the fluid in the back of the neck with Turner syndrome. Then she said that's usually a red flag for something genetic. So then she got a little information. The doctor really kind of kept pushing how likely they thought it was to be Turner syndrome and listed all of the horrible things that can come with Turner syndrome, all of these scary things, all of the really fear-inducing things. I say that not because they shouldn't say it, but it's all in how you present it. So when you're presenting it as, these are what could happen, that's of course going to scare the parent that just found out and was excited to be pregnant. And then to give the statistic of less than 1% of girls diagnosed with this survive. I think the next part is really interesting because to have it be an alarming size cystic hygroma, to have all of that be similar to my story. I'll explain my story in a second, but this next part is really where it catches me. They then move into pushing termination, to pushing them to end the pregnancy and try again, and that it's not worth it, the baby's not going to make it, just really pushing how much of a risk it is. They expected it to not go on much further if they didn't terminate, and it just was a scary situation. It's scary news. So then the husband and wife, Monica and her husband, go and they share this with their church. They tell them what's going on, they ask for prayers, and during a church service, or right before a church service, they all gathered together and prayed over them. Later, at the 16-week ultrasound now, they had stopped going to their original doctor, found a new doctor, they did another ultrasound, and the cystic hygroma was gone. It was just gone. And they couldn't explain it. Then they sent them to a heart specialist to make sure of there not being a heart defect. She said they did several times of looking really intensely and trying to find the heart defect. They never found the heart defect. And Monica's baby was born perfectly healthy, beautiful, and an amazing little butterfly. Now, to quickly point out the parts that are close to my story, the gist of my story is I'm the fourth child. I'm the only girl, and I was a very huge surprise. So when my parents found out I was a girl, they were really excited. And Then things started going weird with the ultrasound. My mom and dad got asked to wait, and the doctor wanted to talk with them, and that's when they gave them the whole spiel. He said there's fluid in her chest cavity and in the back of her neck, and she's not going to make it. You need to terminate because she's not going to make it. And they gave me a less than 1% chance of even surviving. So they sent my mom to a brain specialist. Wasn't my brain. They sent her then to have an amniocentesis, and that's how they got the diagnosis of Turner syndrome. Throughout that whole time period, they were pushing termination. Pushing termination. And we're telling my mom that if they didn't terminate, they could not guarantee she wouldn't have to deliver a stillborn baby. Then, at like 26 weeks, I think, they did one last ultrasound to make sure nothing had changed before my parents had to make their final decision. The fluid in my chest cavity was completely gone. The fluid in the back of my neck was like 80% gone. Just gone. My family had been praying for me. My church had been praying for me. My great aunt and uncle, who were missionaries at the time, put me on a prayer chain that went over into third world countries. And they were praying for me. And that happens. So my parents automatically said no to the termination. Of course, my mom was still nervous the whole rest of the time. But here I am. I'm okay. I don't have any of the heart defects. I don't have any of the normal major health issues they suspect with Turner syndrome after they had given me a less than 1% chance of even living. And it all flipped and turned around at the last minute. So, all of that to say, I love how my story collides with Monica and her husband and baby's story. I just was really awestruck by how similar it was, and I was really excited to find another story so similar to mine, and really encouraged by that. It was really exciting to find another story that gives hope, and that's why I share my story. That's why I talk about these things and I show the way it affects me, because there's a lot of really scary information out there, and that information isn't wrong. There are those chances. I will always have the risk of those things randomly popping up, even though I haven't had any of it. So, all of that to say, there's more to the story. I think both my case and this case show how case by case Turner syndrome really is. And that long list of scary things that have the potential to happen are not really enough information to know what's going to go on. And they're just that. They're just potentials. They're possibilities. There's not a guarantee until you see what happens of what's going to happen. And that's why I've been such an advocate for sharing my story, because I know those parents need hope. I know those girls and women with it who are scared of all of the potential health risks or scared of dealing with the infertility. Being able to watch somebody go through it and deal with it and see that there is choices, that it's not the end of the world, that that's not the end of the story, and to really know how to face you having Turner syndrome requires paying attention to what's going on in your body, not what statistics say are possible. So you need to be answering the questions of, is this a problem for me? Or is this a problem for me? Not simply being afraid everything is going to happen. So that was kind of my heart in sharing this story. Was one, it completely caught me off guard how exactly similar it was with the hygroma going away and all of that. But also it's another example of the same thing happening, of it's not impossible that things turn around. It's not impossible to have a good life. It's not impossible for that baby that got a less than 1% chance of even living could make it. And I don't want to give false hope, and that's where I kind of get stuck with where to push my story and where to allow for somebody to kind of do more research on their own. But I think God gave me this story for a reason. And I think He gave it to me as an example of there being hope. and of it not being the end of the story, and there being more information needed, and way more than the doctors were caring to give, way more hope than the doctors were giving. And that is what I have for you guys today. Obviously, I would absolutely love to hear your thoughts on this. Have you heard of other stories like this that are similar to mine? Do you see the major connections to mine that there are? I just saw so many points where it's the same, and it was blowing my mind. But I hope you enjoyed this. And if you have any questions regarding Turner syndrome or any other Turner syndrome topics you would like to see me talk about, leave that in the comments below. And we have the video coming. I'm so excited, you guys. I am going to start working on the video. Hopefully I'll have it for the Turner syndrome video for next week of the collaboration video. We'll see. I can't make any promises, so if it's not that video, don't get mad at me, but I'll see what I can do. I'm so excited. Thank you guys so much for all of the entries. I cannot wait to edit this together. And oh, I'm just so excited. You guys are the best, and I loved the video entries I got. So thank you guys for being a part of this with me and encouraging my spontaneous ideas. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and share it with everybody. Make sure you are subscribed and have notifications on. And I will see you guys tomorrow. Bye!